Buongiorno and welcome to my channel. My name is Stefania if you guys are new here. So today we are going to be talking about all the new foundations. I've been able to try each of these out for multiple days so I can finally get my thoughts together. I've had to do this video a few times just to make sure that I had all the right footage, but I will insert clips and pictures and close-ups and all that stuff of the foundation. So I will be talking about the ABH foundation, the new Fenty Hydrating foundation, as well as the Pat McGrath foundation, and kind of giving you my thoughts if you're trying to decide on which one to pick up, especially right now since we have the sale. So hopefully you guys are interested in this. Please don't forget to subscribe before we get started. I do upload at least 3 to 4 times a week, and I would love to have you here. And let's go ahead and get into this video. If I could actually dye my hair this color, I would die happy. I love it. I love it so much. But overall, this was a really hard thing to try to organize and see what you guys would be interested when trying to do a foundation battle. One, let's just start off that I have normal skin. I don't have super oily skin and I'm not super on the dry side. So let me put that out there first. And foundations always look different on different people. Everybody has different preferences and things you look for. So I'm going to go over packaging, wear time, finish, cost, shades, and packaging. Those are the things I'm going to try to cover. Please let me know what you guys look for in a foundation. That would be greatly appreciated. That way I can make sure I improve on all these stuff. All these say that they are a natural finish. I prefer my skin to I don't want to look too greasy. You know what I mean? I want to look natural. I like a nice dew, but there's a fine line between a greasy hot dog look and a ooh, she looks good. You know, that barely sweat-ish type look. That is what I'm going for. That is what I prefer. In terms of coverage, I don't want it to be, I'm definitely not a light coverage girl. If I'm going to wear foundation, I'm going to wear foundation. You know, I want it to cover. I am not wasting my money on something that looks like my normal skin as a moisturizer on top, you know? So I definitely look for medium to full coverage. Okay, so I tried to narrow this down into multiple categories. That way it made it easier and cleaner. Like I said, I filmed this video 3 different times, and each time I'm just blah, 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 blah. And I'm you need to be more organized, get it together, concise to the point. So hopefully we are there. But let's go ahead and start off with obviously the 3 foundations I just mentioned. The Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous, the Fenty Pro Hydrating Filter Foundation, and then the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Foundation. I feel like that's such a long name. My gosh. All right, so let's go over shade range first. So the ABH and the Fenty both have 50 shades, whereas the Pat McGrath has 36. I'm surprised no one really gave her a hard time about that. I did swatch the lightest and darkest shade. There seemed to be a good shade range. They all were a little bit difficult in terms of undertones. The only one that I think I got was warm was the Fenty one, and then I actually ended up with 355 neutral in the ABH, 300 in the Fenty, and then 16, which said it had red undertones in the Pat McGrath. So I highly recommend trying to shade match you in store because I would have definitely chose my wrong shade. I always think I'm way lighter than I am. Even this ABH one that I have on right now, I'm is it too dark for me? And I'm no, it's not. It matches you perfectly. What is your problem? But I think 50 is probably a good shade range. When it gets above 50, I think it's way more complicated. I know that we want to be an all-inclusive, but when Pure came out with the 100 shades, I was just that's like going into H&M or Forever 21 for me. And it's a trigger point where I'm just nope, I can't handle it. It's too overwhelming. I'll walk out. So I would say they all have good shade ranges. Pat McGrath could add a few more. But for the most part, I still had to swatch them because usually, the ABH, I am a warm undertone. And the girl was oh, you should be, more in the warms. And I was yeah, but look at this. And she's yeah, it's way too yellow. So the shade matching is definitely a difficult thing to do. You get 1.01 ounces with the ABH. With Fenty, you get 1.08. So Fenty is the best bang for your buck because it is $3 cheaper and you get a little bit more foundation than in the ABH. And then the Pat McGrath one is 1.18. So actually has more than the other ones. Definitely not enough to justify that increase of a price. It is Pat McGrath though, so what do you expect? I would not waste my time with the primer or the powder. I just think that the prices for those are just way too steep to make it worth it. No one's ever looked at my face and said, what a beautiful powder you used, you know? No. There's plenty of hydrating foundation, like hydrating primers. So I don't recommend that. And the packaging for the primer, no. As far as the packaging goes for each one, Fenty actually looks the cheapest. So take that into account. I don't know if you guys care about packaging. I like nice packaging, I will say. It's not like something that I'm like overall, like that's why I would buy the product. Most of the time, sometimes, but not all the time. But I will say the ABH one, I have this one right here. The only thing I don't love is this giant bubble. Like I didn't need it to say foundation on the sides, but it is pretty like standard packaging. It's in a nice bottle, as well as the Fenty, the old one is like this, where it's in that nice frosted bottle. And I like these because you can see the shade. The new Fenty one is in a squeezy tube and you can't really see your shade through it. It's a squeezy tube, it's more practical. It just doesn't look as luxe or high end. The Pat McGrath one wins for packaging hands down. It comes in like a cute, like almost looks like a little cigarette box. And yeah, packaging is actually gorgeous. They all say that there are natural finishes. What I have on my face right now is the ABH, and this has been sitting on my skin for about 8 hours now. So this is what it looks like through a wear test. But I'm going to put in clips of each wear test as well as pictures side by side, because that is where the difference for me kind of came in. Okay, so for the wear test, this one first up is the ABH. I liked how it looked. It definitely didn't like settle into fine lines. I feel like it looked still luminous. Remember, I'm not going in with any extra setting powder between check-ins. So this is how it wore all day. This one right here is the Fenty, where I feel like close up, I look so greasy after about the 6 hour mark, especially close in. It kind of settled into my smile lines more than the other two foundations. So especially my full head, I look gross. And then this last one was the Pat McGrath, which I felt like looked the best as far as just kind of more looking like skin and more like I looked when I applied it compared to the other two. Coverage wise, I would say ABH Luminous is pretty medium to buildable coverage. I can still see a little bit of like my not natural skin. It's not as full coverage, I would say, as the Fenty. The Fenty one actually goes a very long way with a very little amount of product. And I initially liked the Fenty the way it goes on, whereas the ABH and the Pat McGrath, I like the way it mixes with my oils. So immediately with the Fenty one, I can see like the luminosity, whereas these ones, they need to mix more with my skin, and then they look better as they go. As far as the wear times, this is kind of what made me decide if I wanted both. Like the least coverage is definitely the Pat McGrath, but it just looks like skin. I just feel confident and I don't feel like I'm in a full face of makeup, which is what I really enjoy about it. However, if you want more coverage, I would definitely say go with the ABH or the Fenty. Fenty is most, then you got ABH, then you got Pat McGrath. As far as wear times, so ABH, like I said, goes on really nicely. It looks really luminous, but it didn't wear well for me. If I was only going to wear it for like 5 hours, I'd be fine. If I need more than 5 hours, you guys will see from the pictures, my face looks like an oil slick and not in like a good way. Like I felt gross after like that 6 hour mark. I was just like, this is not going to be a long wearing foundation for me. Not to say I don't like it, I do, but it would have to be one where I'm like, oh, I'm only going out to dinner and I can wear this, but I probably wouldn't want to wear it to like a full day of work, or, you know, if I know I'm going to have my foundation on for a long time, whereas the other two have much more wearable times. I would say the ABH and the Pat McGrath, they definitely go on as more of the natural finish, whereas like the Fenty, you can tell it's more of a hydrating formula. As far as the way they all feel, none of them feel like super heavy on the face, which I do greatly appreciate because who wants to feel like it? I don't love to wear foundation all day in general. I work at a gym. I'm sweating all day. It's no for me. I look ridiculous in general considering nobody else at work has foundation on, you know? I work with all guys for the most part. So yeah. I would say if you are trying to decide between the three, first off, I would go in for a sample. I would say if you are oily, you may really like the ABH more than the Fenty, only because of the wear time for me. It just didn't work out. I know that people are loving it, but I did not feel attractive at the end of that like wear test. Like I was just like, oh no. And I wore it for multiple days. Each video I made sure to prime my skin the same way with a Milk Hydro Grip Primer. I set underneath the eyes, and then I did a very light dusting of the powder on my face. So I used the same products in each one, same amount and everything. Obviously, if you were going to touch up your makeup, you'd probably be fine with the Fenty. I'm not someone who likes to touch up my makeup. Like I haven't touched this and say put it on this morning. I'm just not someone who is going to take the time to do that. I'm a simple lazy girl. Just saying. So I would say if you are between, there's only a $3 difference between the ABH and the Fenty. I would say it's a little bit easier probably to choose your Fenty shade if you've already tried the previous shades, because they are an exact match. And I have wear tests of all of these on individual foundations. I will link them up somewhere here. But you're only saving $3 with the Fenty and the tiniest bit amount of products. If you have ever measured anything on a food scale, you know that 0.08 ounces is like nothing. But a little bit does go a long way, where I would say I do use a little bit more of the ABH for coverage. So $38 compared to $35. For me, the clear winner is the ABH. I am happy that I bought it. I am going to keep it. The Pat McGrath, I did end up buying it on the sale because it was on sale. And honestly, it's not going to be my everyday foundation, but for days where I want to wear my foundation for longer, where I just want to feel nice and feel luxurious, that will be my go-to foundation. But this ABH one, I will probably be wearing all the time. The Fenty one, I think I am not going to be picking it up based on the way that it wore through the samples. And I did do a 3-day wear test of each of these, if not more, just on my own time putting it on. I still think it's a beautiful one where I could film with it for a few hours and look good, but not one where I'm like, I'm pretty stingy on whether I want to pay that much, because I'll just use my drugstore foundations then. You know what I mean? So I would say if you are a little bit oilier, the Fenty one probably isn't going to be for you, and I would go with the ABH one. Also, you could use a mattifying primer, which could make a difference. I'm just trying to give you the full rundown of everything. But yeah, that is kind of my final thoughts on these. Ranking them, I would say it goes ABH, Pat McGrath for the price goes in the middle, and you don't get as much coverage, and then the Fenty one for me, which I usually love Fenty so much. But to be honest, I can make the matte one work out for me. I can just use a very hydrating primer, make sure I do my skin prep, spray it with a dewy spray, and I'm pretty much good. I did do a wear test with half my face of the original one compared to the hydrating one, and to be honest, there wasn't that big of a difference. Other than that, without setting it and without kind of working with the fact that it's mattifying, you could see pores more in the mattifying one than the hydrating one. I still think it's a good foundation. I just don't think it's a long wear foundation, or at least it wasn't for me. So take everything with a grain of salt, because I know that these videos get a little like, you know, people have found their new loves and they're just like, how could you? But these are my honest thoughts. Hopefully you guys will see in the footage of how each one wore and kind of see where I'm coming from on these. But that is it from me. Please let me know, which foundation are you guys picking up? Which ones have you guys tried? What are your thoughts? All that good stuff. I've covered everything that I could possibly cover. Fenty is the cheapest, biggest bang for your buck, because it does go a long way. But to me, I'd rather pay that extra $3 for the ABH one. I just feel like it's better suited for my skin. I just like the way I look in it better. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next. Leave me a comment down below. Hit this like if you like this Battle of the Foundations type of video and what you guys want to see next. And I'll see you guys in my next video.